This video provides a demonstration of the gauge point attachment process required for small specimen AMPT cyclic fatigue testing. Gauge points are referred to by several different names, including studs and targets. However, gauge points will be used throughout this video for clarity. Gauge points are used to attach LVDTs or other on-specimen deformation measurement systems to the specimen prior to AMPT cyclic fatigue testing. When using plastic steel epoxy, the following safety precautions are recommended: safety glasses, gloves, lab coat. Additionally, the plastic steel epoxy produces harmful vapors. Work with the epoxy in a well-ventilated area. The following equipment, materials, and supplies are required to attach gauge points to a small specimen: cord and cut 38mm diameter and 110mm tall test specimen, gauge point fixing jig, small specimen adapter kit, 6 gauge points, 2 per LVDT, small spatula or another mixing tool, quick setting epoxy, mixing surface for epoxy, such as cardboard, metal, glass, plastic, approximately 2 inches by 2 inches, balance with 0.01 gram resolution, paper towel, or scrap cloth. Inspect the gluing jig to ensure that it is clean and working properly. Remove the 100mm diameter specimen pedestal. Then remove the gluing jig arms by pulling out the clip and removing the pin. Attach the small specimen arm lengthening adapters using the pins and clips. Then, reattach the gluing jig arms to the small specimen adapters and place the small specimen pedestal in the center of the jig. Older gluing jigs may have C-clips to hold the pins and only one hole in the gluing jig arm. These jigs will require an alternate means to hold the adapters steady. Consult the manufacturer for more information. Attach the gauge points to the gluing jig by pulling the black grips at the end of each arm and placing the gauge point oriented as shown. Release the black grip and ensure the gauge point stays securely aligned. Repeat for all 6 gauge points. Place the specimen in the gluing jig. The epoxy used in this video is DevCon 10240. If using a different epoxy, follow the manufacturer's mixing and curing instructions. Place the mixing surface on the balance. Tare the balance. Measure out approximately 0.85 grams of the black epoxy resin on one side of the mixing surface. Then wipe the spatula on a clean paper towel or scrap cloth. Tare the balance and measure out approximately 0.5 grams of white epoxy hardener on the other side of the mixing surface. Mix the 2 parts of the epoxy together with the mixing tool until a uniform gray color is achieved. Use the mixing tool to place a small dollop of epoxy on each gauge point. Engage the attach switch to attach the gauge points to the specimen. Remove any excess epoxy which could impede the attachment of the displacement transducer hardware. Leave the specimen in the jig until the epoxy has set. For this epoxy, approximately 15 minutes is sufficient. After the epoxy has set, disengage the attach switch while holding the specimen. Remove the specimen from the gluing jig. The small specimens are much lighter than the large specimens and may be knocked over by the release of the arms if not held while releasing the attachment switch.